Hello, I'm Annette Young, and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, how Belgium is leading the way in treating survivors of sexual violence by offering a one-stop centre which provides them with access to medical, psychological and police support. Also in South Korea, which is wrestling with a fertility crisis, a group of monks at a local monastery are doing their bit to revive romance among the young. And we meet Yoa, a rising star of French music, who has turned personal pain into powerful songs and gaining many fans in the process. But first, and the killing of an 11-year-old schoolgirl called Lyhanna in France has exposed major gaps in how the country responds to child sexual violence, sparking public outrage. The principal suspect in the case, Jérôme Barella, has been placed under formal investigation for murder and rape of a minor. Yet across the border, Belgium is trying to counter judicial failures by offering a different approach to survivors of such crimes. Specialist centres bringing medical, psychological and police support all together under one roof. Alex Le Bourdon and Dave Keating sent this report from Brussels.
It's a house that goes almost unnoticed in this residential neighborhood of Charleroi, but every day, victims of sexual violence come knocking at the door.
I just wanted to let you know that a victim will be arriving in 30 minutes.
Do you know anything more about the situation?
No, colleagues went home to take care of her.
We're not authorized to film this woman, but here she will find comprehensive support, first from a psychologist.
How did it go with the victim?
Yeah, actually, she doesn't want to file a complaint, so we're going to start psychological support next week.
In addition to psychologists, there are nurses, doctors, and even on-duty police officers who can take complaints directly on site. This inspector has received special training in cases of sexual violence.
They're already feeling quite unwell about what they've experienced and don't need to repeat what happened to many different people. They need to be properly supported by a trained professional who will listen to them, understand them, and explore possible solutions.
This training is all the more crucial when the victim is a minor. At this center, more than half of the people received are children or teenagers.
These are emotion dolls, which are often used by psychologists to interact with the child and observe their feelings.
Everything is in place to ensure victims can fully express their experiences.
Before, victims had to go through a real ordeal to get help from different places. They would encounter professionals who weren't specifically trained and whose approach wasn't always appropriate. This led to a lot of secondary victimization, sometimes with even more lasting effects from the staff's subsequent comments, which could even surpass the initial assault, which is already very difficult to cope with. CPVS, this is Sophie. I was calling to check in. How are you doing?
There are about 10 centers like this one in Belgium.
Except that you felt heard and you had the feeling that you weren't alone in having to deal with all of this.
It all began in 2017 with this pilot program located in the heart of a hospital in central Brussels.
It's important that this is a discreet place for victims, so they feel safe. It's on the hospital grounds, close to the emergency room, but it's a separate service with no through traffic.
As in Charleroi, several professions collaborate here. Today, the police are collecting the evidence gathered in recent days to hand over to the authorities.
Here we have 3 bags of clothing for this week and the DVD of the interview.
These are valuable samples for the legal process for victims who decide to file a complaint.
Before the CPVS opened, we had a complaint filing rate of around 12%. Now we're seeing a complaint filing rate at the CPVS of over 50%. And the files are of better quality than before because they are now more than 30 pages long, and the samples taken are of a higher quality because they're collected by trained staff.
Not to mention another factor likely to encourage legal action. For victims who don't wish to file a complaint immediately, the CPVS keeps the evidence for 6 months.
We know that sexual violence is completely underestimated in society. So certainly, if we encourage the reporting of these types of complaints and encourage the filing of complaints in court, we'll undoubtedly see an increase in the workload of the judicial system, which must be taken into account in terms of refinancing.
In 10 years, prosecutions for sexual offenses have increased by 50% in Belgium, but more than half of the cases are dropped.
Now to South Korea, which has one of the world's lowest fertility rates. The nation is trying to fend off a demographic crisis in which half of the population would be aged over 65 by 2070. Pronatalist policies have become a staple of public life, and even in one coastal monastery, the local monks are trying to do their bit for romance. Antonia Kerrigan has the story.
In South Korea, how better to find love than the so-called trust walk, in which men and women take turns guiding prospective partners, blindfolded, through the grounds of a Buddhist monastery, describing the scenery. So, could matchmaking retreats be the next big thing after the apps?
I'm quite a bubbly, energetic person, so even when I was little, my parents brought me to the temple whenever they couldn't handle me. It would calm me down. So I think it's a good place where you can communicate with a calm mind and in a respectful way.
Participants watch a religious presentation, try to catch eyes at a talent show. All this followed by a tea ceremony. But this initiative wasn't designed as just a breath of fresh air for young singles, but as the Korean Buddhist Foundation for Social Welfare's answer to a demographic crisis, after the fertility rate hit a record low of 0.72 children per woman in 2023.
This matchmaking program at Naksansa Temple received 4,225 applicants, thanks to their passionate interest and support. Since the 20 of you here were selected from among all those earnest applicants, I hope you join this program with sincerity and bear fruit.
The South Korean population is forecasted to decline by as much as a third by the 2070s. To counter the ageing population, the state has spent the equivalent of 210 billion euros on pronatalist policies in recent decades. A universal child benefit scheme since 2019, subsidised housing schemes for newlyweds, and some mayors even organising their own matchmaking events like this one. But with an intense work culture and a burden of childcare that weighs heavily on women, it's a strategy not without its blind spots.
And finally, to one of the rising stars of the French music scene, a singer-songwriter, Yoa, originally trained as an actor, but during the pandemic, she started making music from her bedroom. Since then, she's gone on to sell out major venues and win praise for her deeply personal lyrics, tackling subjects from mental health through to sexual assault. Jennifer Ben-Brahim recently caught up with her.
Hello, I'm Yoa, and this is France 24. I wanted to re-release my album because I felt like I wasn't quite finished with the cycle I was going through before moving on to something else. So I wrote these songs that talk about friendship, about women, about mental health, about depression, but from maybe a slightly more evolved, more adult perspective.
J'aime passer du temps avec moi. Je crois que le reste du monde ne fait pas le poids. Je suis reine au-dessus des rois. Et qu'est-ce que c'est bon pour une fois?
Moi is a song that is all about self-love, love for one's body. It's a song I wanted to be very joyful, almost borrowing some of rap's ego-driven style.
Mais qu'est-ce que c'est bon d'être moi? J'étais toi, je voudrais être moi. Je voudrais être moi. Je voudrais être. Qu'est-ce que c'est bon d'être moi?
Alors la dernière chanson que
The last song I released is called Yao.
qui s'appelle Yao.
And the title comes from the fact that my name is Yoa. And since the start of my career, people often get my name wrong and call me Yao. At first, it kind of annoyed me. And then very quickly, it started to make me laugh. And I don't know, I think there's a nice metaphor or image in that for what it means to be an artist. I kind of belong to everyone. I belong in a way to all the people who listen to me.
J'appartiens un peu à toutes les personnes qui m'écoutent d'une certaine manière.
Ça s'en va jamais, jamais vraiment. On apprend juste à faire avec le temps.
Au début, j'étais en école de théâtre parce que je voulais être
At
comédienne.
first, I was in theatre school because I wanted to be an actress. I encountered a lot of difficulties at auditions, such as casting directors who were racist, saying I was too dark-skinned for a certain role. Pretty horrible things that honestly kind of put me off. I think that the theatre world really lacks diversity in France. I don't necessarily want to go back into acting. I'm fine where I am now.
Vers la comédie. Je suis bien là où je suis pour l'instant.
Mais qu'est-ce qu'elle aurait dit ta mère si elle te voyait faire du mal aux filles autour de toi? Est-ce que tu la rendrais fière, toi et ton cœur de pierre que tu as brisé sur mes doigts?
Le collectionneur, c'est une chanson qui
Le
parle
Collectionneur is a song that talks about sexual abuse. At the beginning of the song, I put myself in the place of the abuser, and then I take back control. I've had a lot of very sad but also very positive feedback because people have told me that the song sometimes helped them file a complaint or get back on their feet or even keep living. It's so cool that songs can actually have a real purpose, you know.
un vrai but, quoi.
C'est toujours au cœur du chaos que je sens mon cœur vibrer, mélanger mes rêves et ma réalité.
Mes fans, ils sont
My fans are very respectful, and they are very respectful towards me and my personal life. I don't know, I feel like we understand each other well. I truly love them deeply, and they're kind of with me every day because I wouldn't be here without them. We get each other, I'd say.
de dire.
Où sont donc les vies que l'on n'a pas vécues, celles qu'on a perdues, les petites filles qu'on a déçues? Si je le pouvais, je recommencerais.
And that's it for this edition. We'll be taking a break over the European summer and we'll return in early September with a brand new season. So until then, bye for now.